Let's get real for a moment. Fly fishing can be a very frustrating sport. It's very technical at times. If you find it frustrating and you're looking for the answers on how to make it more enjoyable, it's coming up on this episode of Fly Fish University TV. Good morning and welcome back to another episode of Q&A Friday. My name is Jordan Ulrich and I created Fly Fish University because I kind of have a thing for helping other people increase their knowledge and their skill set in fly fishing to make it a more enjoyable sport. If you've never listened to another episode and you just landed here, then I think that this is a very important place to start. Okay, each and every week we take a question from somebody around the world that has to do something with fly fishing and take my best shot at it. So today's question comes from Ben in Salt Lake and it says, I just started fly fishing and I just landed on your channel. Advice to someone who finds it very frustrating and very hard not to just give up. First things first, let's understand that fly fishing you have every right to find fly fishing frustrating because it is a very complicated, very technical sport sometimes, especially due to the fact that you're trying to get this slimy little creature to participate in making your day successful or not. And a lot of times that's outside of our control. The behavior of fish is not something that, unfortunately, not something that we can control at the flick of a switch, but also that's what makes it fun. So let me just tell you that when I started fly fishing, it was very, very hard. It was incredibly hard. I could remember just not having a clue what I was doing. So far from having a clue what I was doing, I was absolutely winging it each and every time. Okay, to the point where, let me just tell you that I can vividly remember a trip where a friend of mine and myself, we were fishing for 2 days and we had one fly, ended up being a prince nymph. We had one fly that was working super well and we didn't understand why. We didn't know why it was working so well, we just knew that it was. So what we would do is he would catch a fish on it and then I would kick my little float tube over to him. I would clip it off his line, put it on mine, go catch a fish with it, clip it off my line, put it back on his until the fly got absolutely obliterated and demolished. So the problem there was that we just had no idea. We just didn't even know. Those were also some of the funnest times, by the way. Let me just tell you for sure that you're not the first person to find fly fishing very, very frustrating. And I think that a lot of people quit, unfortunately, a lot of people quit right before they really get over that, right before they get over that first initial learning curve where nothing really makes sense. And that's a huge motivator for me because I remember precisely what that felt like. And, the learning curve never ends, but there's definitely a point where you can at least reach a level of competence where you are, you're getting on the water and you feel like you know what you're doing. You're not just wildly guessing. You actually understand things top to bottom a little bit. So let me tell you that the number one thing that is missing when people are, really finding fly fishing challenging is knowledge. And it's getting the right information from someone who knows what they're doing that can help you, and then going forth and actually implementing this knowledge and then getting more knowledge and implementing that knowledge and so on and so forth. I've told this many times, but everything changed for me when I started spending time on the water with people who actually knew their stuff, right? I started spending time with people in fly fishing that actually were way better than myself. So I could just kind of unconsciously learn from them and pick up on what they were doing and pick up on all of the little ways that they did things differently than I was doing them. And sometimes I would look at what they were doing and I go, why are they doing that? And then I'd think, okay, let's check our ego at the door because I know nothing. So I'm just going to take the advice they give me and I'm going to do it. Believe it or not, things started to change really quickly. I learned more in my first 3 months of fishing with a circle of people who really had their stuff dialed than I did in the first 3 or 4 years of actually trying to figure it out on my own. So the one thing that's missing, okay, the one thing that's missing is the right information. It's not hard to implement the right information, but when you're trying to just, fly by the seat of your pants, it's very challenging because there's a lot of little idiosyncrasies within the sport of fly fishing, and especially within the sport of trout fishing, that just it's hard. Like, it can be very, very hard. And you go into some fisheries, I've seen people who are just starting out, and they start out in these fisheries that are very technical, they're very challenging, and the fish are incredibly hard to catch. And what that does is diminishes their confidence more and more and more. And they sit out there like, should I change flies? Is my leader too short? Is it too heavy? Is it too long? There's sometimes just one thing in your setup or one small adjustment, micro adjustment that can be made, and it's the difference between a really poor day and a very, very good day. So back in March, we ran something that was an accelerator workshop designed to help people really grasp these fundamentals, because once you've got these fundamentals dialed, you're going to find that fly fishing becomes exponentially easier. It becomes so much more fun when you know what you're doing. And it's so frustrating when you don't, because you're driving home at the end of every trip like, what's the point? What am I doing wrong? Am I doing everything wrong? What am I even doing right? So it's a really challenging thing sometimes. So I started something. It was an accelerator workshop. It was a 3-day event. And we had people come in and say, oh my God, I learned more in the last 3 sessions than I did in the last 3 years, right? So really, our mission is helping people understand these fundamentals so that you can implement them on the water and get the results that you want. Because like I said, fly fishing is not supposed to be frustrating. Well, it's good if it's frustrating once in a while, but it's not supposed to be frustrating all the time, right? You want to go out and catch some fish. That's kind of the point. Now I'm going to invite you to join me for free in the Trout Fishing Accelerator Workshop on June 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. This is a 3-part video series that is really going to help you go from wherever you are to where you want to be. And I know that where you want to be is catching more fish. If that is not where you want to be, then just keep doing what you're doing. So the first lesson, you're going to learn how to really get your equipment dialed in. And I know some people, they're good casters, they've got a good casting stroke, but I've had some clients, many of them in my boat, where they have the basics down, but their equipment is all over the place, right? It's a total mess, and they're not maximizing. This doesn't mean you have to go out and spend a fortune. It just means you need to have the right equipment that's going to work for you, right? The right equipment that works for the next person might not be the right stuff that works for you. So we're really going to show you how to get your equipment dialed in and understand this relationship between rod, line, and reel, and how all of these things have to balance together, and everything has to be working in sync, right? If they're not working in sync and something is out of whack, it's going to make fly fishing exponentially more challenging, exponentially more difficult, okay? Lesson 2, what I'm going to share with you are some tips to help you tighten up your casting stroke, increase your line speed, increase your distance, increase your accuracy by sharing some of the drills that I still use all the time when I go to a random field and I bring my fly rod and a couple little props and I go out and just practice my casting. Okay, too many people try to learn on the water, and the best place to learn is actually not on the water, because you're not focused on the result of catching fish. You are on the grass, and there's nothing to distract you other than tightening up your casting stroke and really getting everything working for you. A lot of people think that effort is the number one thing that's going to help them cast further, and it's absolutely not true. Okay, lesson 3, what we're going to teach you is fly selection, understanding not just what flies you're fishing, but why are you fishing them, right? It's one thing to know the names of a bunch of different patterns, but it's another thing to actually know why you're tying it on in the first place, okay? If you can make the unconscious decision, if you can look at a situation and make the calculation in your head based on the conditions, okay, especially from a fly selection point of view, you've already figured out 90% of it, right? Understanding how all of this comes together based on the conditions that are always changing, okay, with fly selection being a large part of this, is going to help you catch more fish. The curse of what I call fly change-itis is when people get on the water and they start freaking out that they're not doing it right, so they just change flies and change flies and change flies, and they spend more time tying knots than they do actually fishing, right? They spend more time surfing through their fly box than they do actually putting their fly in the zone in front of fish where it needs to be. Okay, our last workshop, when we did this in March, we had over 500 registrants from 6 different countries around the world. It was so much fun. And I basically reviewed every single video that we did, and I thought, how could we make this better, more digestible? How could we get people the information that they need in a shorter period of time? Okay, so I took everybody's feedback, analyzed all the content, and here we are again. So I'm going to invite you to go to flyfishuniversity.com/accelerator. And if you're into trout fishing or fly fishing in freshwater and this is your thing, you really don't know where to go from here, okay, this is a free event and I'm very, very much looking forward to it because this is what we're all about. And the more people that we can have getting the results that they want on the water, the more people that are going to be out having a good time rather than, swearing and wondering if they should quit and go golfing, which you could go golfing too, but it's very important to get the right information, get on the right track, and then start to build some of those more technical skills and worry about some of the more technical, some of the deeper technicalities in fly fishing once you have that rock solid foundation. But that's what a lot of people miss, is just that basic foundation. And if you've been fishing for a couple of years and you think, well, I already know this stuff, I'm going to invite you to join us just in case, because I guarantee there might be 1 or even 2 things that you may not have picked up in your fly fishing journey. So again, you can go to flyfishuniversity.com/accelerator. I'm so excited to see you there. This is a totally free event. We really just want to do this to help people master the fundamentals so that they can have a better time in fly fishing, a better time in trout fishing, and ultimately make the sport just a little bit better. flyfishuniversity.com/accelerator. My name is Jordan Ulrich. I look forward to seeing you there, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Fly Fish University TV and the Fly Fish University podcast. Have yourself a great weekend.